Hi, welcome back to the farm. My name's Roz, also known as Passion Flower, and you'll find me here each week talking about my farming and creative life. Well, it might be starting to feel like summer. We've had some warmer days, blue skies, and no rain. They're saying more is going to come, but let's just make the most of it while we can. I've been enjoying being over here at the shed. Our grass in the paddocks is getting super long. It is looking like waves when the wind blows. It's actually really, really cool. So hopefully it stays dry and it grows a little bit longer before we have a chance to get it cut for hay. We haven't had cows on our property for probably the past 6 months, I think, maybe a little bit more. So all the grass has grown nice and long. And so this season we'll be cutting hay from all of that grass. What we normally do is we get a contractor in and he cuts and bales and then he takes away the hay as payment. We will hopefully be able to keep a few bales. I guess it depends on our yield, so that we can have some for the sheep and the goats and the chickens and all that kind of thing. We're using much more hay than we have previously because I have the 3 sheep, and as it gets drier, I will need to be feeding them hay regularly. Speaking of sheep, I've had a little bit of excitement with them this past week. Um, I don't think I shared this with you, but when the shearer came out, he told me that Vito still had one of his testicles. I thought he was a wether, but clearly he is not. And this past few weeks, he's started to show real signs of being a ram. He's been butting things. He's been like pushing his head against the ground and stomping his feet. And he's been showing a lot of interest in Evie to the point that he's been chasing her around. She is not reciprocating this interest. So yeah, she's not pleased with the situation. And I don't particularly want her to get pregnant, so I'm going to have to get him castrated. I called the vet and arranged for a farm visit. We were going to have him have surgery at the start of this week. So I'd isolated him in the shelter, and the other 2 were just out in the paddock so that he was going to be easy to deal with when the vet came. But then the morning of the operation, the vet realized that we hadn't confirmed whether or not he'd had his vaccinations. And I'd gotten him from a Gumtree ad from a family who had bought them off a farm. And so I didn't have any of the backstory or knew if he'd been vaccinated or not. So instead of having the surgery, she came to the farm and she vaccinated all 3 of the sheep. So now I have to wait 4 weeks before we are then able to go through with the castration. So the surgery will now take place between Christmas and New Year. That's booked in. But between now and then, I have to keep Evie away from Vito, just in case he hasn't already been successful. I don't want to give him an opportunity now, especially since she was literally like running from him the other day. I just don't want to have that stress of that happening in the paddock. So we started with Vito in the original paddock and Hurley and Evie in the shed paddock, because that's how we'd split them while we were doing the vaccinations and everything. And that seemed like the most logical thing to do, to put the one who was actually having the issues by himself. And that worked for the first day until I came out the next morning and I was bringing hay down to feed them all, as I do. And Hurley decided that he didn't want to be fed second. He wanted to be prime position, and he literally jumped over the wooden fence that we have. And like, I didn't even think that that was possible. It was quite a small gap, really. And he was literally, he didn't climb it or do anything. It was just like, boop, straight over. And then he just came straight to me, well, with a few distractions through the shed garden first, because there's lots of tasty things to try in there. And then he just stood beside me while I threw the hay over to Vito and just ate the grass outside of the paddock. So I wasn't worried that he was going to go anywhere, but I was just worried that I wasn't going to be able to get him back in the paddock because there was so much good stuff on the outside. So it did take a little while to kind of figure out how to open the gate with Vito trying to get out because Hurley was on the other side, and get Hurley in without Vito coming out. Anyway, so now I have Vito and Hurley together, and I have Evie by herself. And now I feel sorry for Evie because she's getting a little bit lonely, but I'm also feeling good for her because she's not having to compete with the boys for food. So she's getting a lot more hay and grain, and not getting bothered by either of them because they tend to like push her out of the way a lot of the time. The boys seem quite happy in there now. Hopefully, there's going to be no more escaping issues. I have much higher and tighter so that there's less chance of jumping there as well. Because I don't want Hurley to get into the habit of being able to think that he can jump the fence, because that will end up being an issue. So hopefully they are all happy where they are now. I do need to try and figure out probably an afternoon shade solution for Evie. The morning is okay because she's got the shade that's generated by the shed, and she's got a little bit of shade like right near the gate where she can sort of see in where the boys are, and I think she's quite happy to sit there. So I probably need to try and figure out some kind of shade that I can add across there for her, just so that she's not, as we move into these hopefully warmer days, not being too exposed if she doesn't need to be, because the boys go off and go into the shed and there's shade all around there, but she won't have that option if she wants to sort of see them from where she sits. The surgery is booked in for between Christmas and New Year. I do feel bad that I have to do this and that I wasn't smart enough or thinking enough to actually have looked into all this much, much earlier. Hopefully this will calm him down and I'll be able to go back to having my little flock of three. I'm really not looking forward to the surgery day because I'm going to have to help the vet actually flip him and hold him back while she does everything. So I'm hoping that I can actually deal with that. I am probably going to try and recruit some help with that as well, just in case I am not able to cope with the blood and all that kind of stuff. Don't worry, I'm not going to show it here. Then he will still need to be away from Evie for another 3 to 4 weeks after the surgery because he will still have the capability for a little while to be able to make her pregnant. It's going to be an interesting few months for all of the sheep. From a surgery and recovery point of view, I'm going to be on holidays for a little bit of that, so I'm going to have to get the help of everyone else around the farm to check in and look after them while I'm away. And then kind of playing the waiting game to see if Evie may or may not already be pregnant. And so gestation period is about 5 months. So we will find out in due course if that is the case. So plenty happening here on the farm. With the sun out and also with me sort of wanting to keep an eye on the sheep and their escaping efforts, I have been spending a little bit of time over here at the shed the past few days, which has been really nice. Much more enjoyable to be in here when it is sunny and a nice temperature, as opposed to when it's absolutely pouring with rain and cold. It's okay being in here when it's cold and I'm doing a lot of yarn dyeing and moving around, but when I'm just over here doing work like tidying and paperwork and things like that, it's not quite so pleasant unless the sun is out. So what I have done is I've started to tidy in here, and after only one full day, the difference it's made is unbelievable. I actually got a whole lot done. So my desk is now tidy. I haven't sort of cleaned up underneath it. I've sort of put things back where they should kind of go, but I haven't gone through and properly cleaned. So at the moment, I've just done surfaces. I've cleaned up my winding station, got rid of all of the bits of yarn and rubbish and all of that kind of thing. I've cleared off my table. I've cleared off the dyeing surface and wiped everything down and reorganized all of that. and I'm really happy with the progress that I've made, and it feels so much better. I do need to do that deep cleaning stuff. I need to vacuum the floors. I want to do the windows, and I want to, as I said, do sort of the under desk stuff and reorganize all of my papers and all the things for shipping and labels and old technology that I probably need to go through and throw out. All of that still needs to be done. I have also gone through my yarn, the dyed yarn, and reorganize it into colors, partly because this weekend after recording, I'm going to pack the car and I'm going to the Tea Time Yarn Retreat Market, which I didn't think I was going to end up going to this month, but we had to postpone the sock classes at Unwind. So the opportunity was then there to go to the Tea Time Yarn Retreat Market instead. So I'm actually really excited to be going to that. So all of my yarn has been reorganized back into their proper tubs, and I will be going to that this weekend. And then I'll have to reorganize it again, because when you pack up, you just chuck everything back in. So that's okay though. That's sort of a constant that I need to do. And then that will be a trigger then for me to write my next lot of dyeing lists to start on new ideas, potentially for new colorways, and also for getting restocked for events coming up in 2023. I have only been working on one project this week, and I've made quite a lot of progress. I've been working on The Maze by Marie Amelie Designs. I'm really loving this pattern. It has been really easy to follow. She kind of has notes at the start of each section that says, in this section, you're going to be doing this, 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 and then it goes into the actual knitting instructions. So you kind of know that where the direction of the pattern is going, which I find really useful. So last week I had done the yoke, and I was just before splitting for the sleeves. I've now split for the sleeves and a lot more. I've done a lot of the body. Look at all of that. Lots, 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 lots. So I need to knit, I think, down to about 27 centimeters. There is no shaping in the body until you get down to where you're going to do the band, and then you decrease quickly. So it ends up becoming sort of like a puffy body, and then the sleeves are puffy as well. So I've tried it on and the top fit really well. So I am now just knitting away in the round until I get to that magical length for doing the band at the bottom. I've just started the second ball of yarn, so I should probably only take two, but I'll see how I go. It depends how much yarn these sleeves take up, because they are actually quite a large circumference, so it'll probably take up more than I think they will. So yeah, that's all I've been working on. Well, that's it for another week. Thanks for spending some time with me. If you're enjoying these videos, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to seeing you next week on the farm. Bye.